All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Spirit Side. I'm Paul James Caden. And in today's show, we're going to continue with our October spooky or semi-spooky themes. But this week, they're spooky or somewhat spooky themes that are also educational to help people or make people aware of things. So, been an interesting week here on the Spirit Side, and I think we're going to continue that with this particular podcast. We are going to talk about how to deal with paranormal disturbances. Now, these things do happen. People do see strange things or have frightening encounters with unexplainable phenomenon or beings, sometimes in their homes. And I had planned on making this podcast early in the week, and a subscriber on YouTube, a friend of mine, asked, "Hey, how can I deal with getting rid of some of these disturbing, seemingly dark presences that are in my home?" And we're going to talk about that today. There's a few different ways that I have found over the years, and I've dealt with and did some house cleansings for some people that it was quite spooky what was going on. Not nice. Definitely don't think it was nice. And these techniques that I'm going to talk about in this podcast are ones that I've used, and they've been successful. I have not had any problems where people had to call in priests or exorcists or, a special team of people to deal with these things. I mean, sometimes those things may be necessary. But I would say if you're having any problems with paranormal phenomenon in your house, try these techniques first. And if they don't work, repeat them 2 to 3 times, because sometimes it takes a couple of tries to get your confidence, your authority, kind of get the knack for what you're doing. And that's important. That's very important. So try these things. If they don't work right away, give it a couple of times. I would say 2, no more than 3. If that doesn't work and you're still having issues, then by all means, call someone in who, can bring in the big guns, so to speak, and get those things out of your home or wherever it is you happen to be that they're disturbing you. So let's dive into this and talk about some techniques that, I personally use. Other people have used them with great success. And the first thing I would say about any of this right up front, when you go into a situation where you're dealing with the paranormal, you don't want to be afraid of. Of course, you're going to be a little uneasy. It's going to feel a little weird. You're not quite sure what it is. Maybe you've never dealt with anything like that before. But you have to remember 2 things. Number 1, you are a child and a reflection of the divine spirit. You have all the backing of the light behind you. And incidentally, if you're dealing with an earthbound spirit, so do they. They may be angry, they may be lost, but what they really need is some help. So be confident in what you're doing. Speak in that confidence, speak in that authority. Do these things with confidence that, hey, right where I am, God is. God is within me. I am one with God. And, I use that power, that strength, that faith, that authority with confidence, because you are backed. You're not going into this situation blind or alone or unarmed. The light is always greater than the darkness. And, once you have that confidence and that faith, you're speaking, you're acting in that authority, that makes a lot of difference. It makes a tremendous difference. So don't be afraid. I mean, it's okay if you're a little spooked out, first time around, but realize, you're not going into this alone. You have a lot of very strong, powerful, spiritual backing on your side. You have the whole of the divine on your side. So always remember that. So the first thing you want to do when you're dealing with paranormal disturbances, you don't want to go in like a Hollywood movie yelling and screaming, "Get out, in the name of Christ, get out." You don't want to yell. You don't want to seem like you're angry or mean. Or swear and curse at whomever or whatever it is that's in your home or wherever you happen to be. You always want to take the friendly, helpful, respectful approach first. Remember, this could be, as they say, one of the theories, someone who is lost, a earthbound spirit. They don't know that they're deceased. They're confused. Where are they? What's going on? Or why are you in their home? They're feeling invaded. Why doesn't anyone see them? Why can't they hear them? So they might get a little rowdy because they're lashing out. Who are you and what are you doing in my house, my office building, my restaurant, or whatever it happens to be? So don't look at them as being evil. You want to take the helpful and friendly approach first. So how do you do that? Well, the first thing I would do is get some white candles. You don't need a whole bunch of them. They could even be little tea light candles, those inexpensive ones that they're about the size of a little bigger than a quarter. Just make sure they're white. You could have 2 or 3, you could have one in each corner of the room. Place them wherever you feel you need to place them. You want to get some water. And this is something that's going to be used in a lot of these techniques we're going to talk about here today. You're going to make what's called blessed water. And essentially, it is the same as holy water. But what you're going to do is you're going to get some water and you're going to have it in a container, an open container. You can have it in a jar or a small bottle, but leave the lid off. And what you're going to do, how you make blessed water, is you read the 23rd Psalm over the water 3 times. And it's important, they say, when you make blessed water, this is why you want the open container. Just let your breath fall over the water as you read the 23rd Psalm. If you don't have a Bible, well, maybe you're not, Christian or whatever, you can look it up online, Psalm 23. So get your water, read the 23rd Psalm over the water 3 times. Then simply just place your hands over the water and say a quick prayer, whatever prayer feels right to you. Basically, you're going to ask God, Divine Spirit, to bless the water. That His presence, His energy, His love, His blessing be on this water, and that any darkness, evil will be dispelled wherever it is sprinkled. And that's all there is to it. Now you have a container of blessed water that you can use for many different occasions if you need it. The next thing you're going to do is sprinkle or put some of the water on your finger and just rub it on the candles. Bless the candles. You may say, I anoint and I bless this candle with this blessed water in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, or whatever faith tradition you happen to be. Just say a little blessing over the candle. I bless this candle with this water, and then you have the candles are blessed as well. So then what you're going to do is you're going to go into the room or rooms wherever there is, the disturbance. Sometimes it's isolated to one or two rooms. Sometimes you may have to do this throughout the whole house. So wherever you have to do it, one room, two rooms, every room of the house, you could do a room a day. If you could do it in one shot. But you're going to go in the room, you're going to place the candles around, you're going to light the candles. As you light each candle, you're going to say, this flame represents the light of the divine or the light of God. So each candle you light, this flame represents the light of God. Then you're going to take the holy water, and you're going to just sprinkle it throughout the room. And you're going to ask a quick blessing on the room as you sprinkle it. And just say, I bless this room with this water, in the name of Father, Son, Holy Spirit, or in the name of Christ, or whatever faith you are that makes this, an empowering moment of prayer for you. Then you're simply going to stand or sit in the room, and you're going to envision the entire room being filled with white light. And while the room is filled with white light, you're going to envision one corner of the room where there's a particularly bright vortex of white light. It's opening up like a tunnel. And this represents the tunnel many people go through when they pass. They say they go through the tunnel of light, the white tunnel. And then you're just going to ask the spirits in the room. You're going to speak to them calmly and just say something to the effect, I'm not here to hurt you. I'm sorry if you feel that I'm invading your home or if you feel lost. But I want you to know I'm here to help. You've passed away. You've died. It's time to go to the light. You will not be judged. You will not be harmed. This world is not your home anymore. This is why you're sad. This is why you're angry. Look to the corner of the room. Look for the tunnel. Look for the opening in the light. You'll see your loved ones and your relatives that they'll be coming for you. They want to take you home now. And usually this particular exercise, you'll feel kind of like a shift, almost like there's a lightness in the room or within yourself. Like, oh man, I just feel peaceful all of a sudden. Or like a weight's been taken off my shoulders, or the atmosphere in the room feels so much more clear. And that's usually the indication that whoever it was, they were lost. They heard what you said. They went to the light. They went home. It's a done deal. Now, some may ask, well, how long should I sit there and talk to the spirit? First and foremost, when you're envisioning the white light in the room and, the opening leading into spirit, you want to have your eyes closed so you can just visualize. And, how long should you sit and talk with the person in the room, especially if if there's been somebody around your house or in your home that has passed. It shouldn't take too long, but if you're sitting there for, 5, 10, 15 minutes and you're reassuring the person, you're reassuring them, it's okay. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm sorry that you've been angry. I'm sorry that you've been feeling lost. I understand that you're here now and I want to help. Please go to the light. You've passed away. Your loved ones are waiting for you. You're going to be okay. There's only love there. You're not going to be judged. Don't be afraid. Ask them to look to the light. Ask them to look for their relatives. Look for their loved ones that are coming for them. Just reassure them. And, that they're going to be okay, and, explain to them what's happened. And generally through this process, it usually takes no more. For the most part, it usually happens pretty quick within the first 5 minutes. It's usually a very quick process. But if you find that you're there, like I said, 10, 15 minutes, that's okay too, because sometimes earthbound spirits, they're a little more suspicious. They're not really believing so much what you're saying. Who is this person? Why are they telling me this? Or they're afraid to go to the light because of some religious upbringing, or they're afraid they're going to be thrown into hell. And assure them. If you're finding it's taking a little, more than 5 minutes, assure them and say, look, you probably, when you were alive, you heard this idea, of hell. You're afraid of God. You're afraid of the light. But please think about it logically, that if this were the case, they would have come and dragged you there already. But they haven't. You're still here. You're angry, you're lost, you're kind of wandering in, familiar territory, but you're still here. It's because they're not out looking for you like bounty hunters to drag you to hell. They're waiting for you to come home. And they respect your feelings on the other side. If you're afraid, if you're timid, if you're confused, they're not going to force you, because they know that this will frighten you even more. So explain things like this to them. They're people just like you and I. And so sometimes we have to reason with them and, kind of reassure them and coax them that it's okay. And most of the time, 9.5 times out of 10, they go pretty quickly because they're miserable. They don't want to be there either. Now, that's the friendly, helpful method. The next method is a little more aggressive, and this is if you're maybe dealing with a spirit that's ultra mean. They just want to hang around and make you or someone else miserable. Or the possibility that you're dealing with something that was not a deceased human. It's something else. Call it demon, call it dark entity, lower entity, whatever you want to call it. It's a non-human spirit. And, sometimes people deal with these things as well. So if you find it's stubborn, or it starts getting worse, or it doesn't leave when you do the friendly approach, then you're a little more forceful. Then pretty much what you're going to do, same kind of thing. You're going to have your white candles, your blessed water. It could also be helpful at this point if you have to take the next step you're going to want to, and I lost my place there because I had to pause the recording to tend to something. And I'm not sure where I left off, but I'll just take it from the top. If you're dealing with something that's stubborn, mean, rotten, you're going to want to take it to the next step, which is the not so friendly level. And again, you're going to want to use your candles, your blessed water, but you also may want to have some blessed and anointed olive oil. Now, this works as the same as the oils you'll see, priests or ministers use when they anoint somebody, or they'll anoint homes. You'll often see. I like olive oil as well as the water when you have to take it to the next step. So it's the same thing. If you need to have some anointed, blessed olive oil, what you're going to do is same thing. Get some olive oil in a little container that you can use. Leave the lid off, and you're going to read the 23rd Psalm over it 3 times. But you're also going to read Luke chapter 10, verse 19 3 times over the olive oil. So for blessed and anointed olive oil, that is the 23rd Psalm read 3 times over the olive oil, and then Luke 10:19. And again, if you don't have a Bible, you could look these up on the internet. Luke 10:19 simply says, "Behold, I give unto you power to tread upon serpents and scorpions, and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you." So again, you're going to read that 3 times, letting your breath fall over the olive oil naturally as you read, and then once again say a little prayer at the end, just asking God to bless and anoint the olive oil, and that it would heal, cure, but also drive out any darkness or evil wherever it is used. And that's it. So then, after you have the blessed and anointed olive oil, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to go into the room or rooms that that are having the disturbance. This time, I usually like to bless the candles at that point with the olive oil, or anoint the candles. You could do it just in a circle, or the sign of the cross. I bless and anoint this candle in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, or, whatever faith tradition you may use. The oil is a little more potent than the blessed water. So I like to use the oil on the candles for phase 2 if it's a problematic entity or spirit. The rest is pretty much the same. You're going to go into the room, you're going to place the candles, you're going to light each candle and say, this light, it's a little different when you light the candles this time. You're going to say, this light represents the light and power of God, or this light represents the light and power of the divine. You're going to light your candles. You're going to sprinkle the blessed water throughout the room, just like phase 1, saying a prayer, asking God to, remove any darkness, any evil, anything that doesn't belong there. And then you're going to take the oil and you're going to anoint over top the door, both sides of the door to the room. Generally, I make the sign of the cross. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, I anoint this doorway, this threshold, that no evil thing may enter or dwell here. And I do both sides, the door frame at the top leading in, and the other side leading out, and usually over top each window in the room. Then you're going to stand in the middle of the room once you've anointed the doors and the windows. And again, you're going to read the 23rd Psalm and Luke 10:19 3 times each. But each time you read them, say I'm reading, just for example, I have Luke 10:19 here. If I'm reading it 3 times, I would say, "Behold, I give unto you power to tread upon serpents and scorpions, and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you." And then I would say, in the name of Christ, I command that any entities or beings in this room that do not belong here leave now. I take authority over you. This is my home. This is my dwelling. This is my space. You do not belong here. I do not welcome you here. In the name of Christ, I command you leave now. Then I would read again, behold, I give you power to tread on the serpents, scorpions, etc., etc. And I would say that again. In the name of Christ, I command any entities in this room that do not belong here, you must leave now. You're essentially what I call giving them the rude boot. Now, if you're another religious tradition or faith, you can certainly use your own prayers, what feels right to you, what feels empowering, how you connect with divine spirit. And that's pretty much what you're doing is, at this point, you're throwing them out. If you're using the friendly approach 2 to 3 times, you're going to take it to level 2. And, this is pretty much giving them the boot. Okay, you're still here. You're being mean. You're being rotten. You're being disruptive. Now we're just going to throw you out. You don't want to curse and swear and say, you SOB, you what? No, you don't want to provoke anything when it comes to the paranormal, but you do have that right to stand your ground. My home, my space, my dwelling, my family, out. And again, say it with authority. Say it with faith. You do have backing from the light. So don't think you're abandoned, to deal with this on your own, or something's going to come and, hurt you. That's extremely rare. If you take it to phase 2, I would say leave the candles in the room that you light. Make sure you have a little container for each one or a candle holder that's safe, and let the candles burn out. Don't take them out of the room. Once you've done the ritual, the blessing, leave the candles. Just let them burn out in the room naturally. Don't extinguish them. Don't take them out of the room. Just let them be there until they're done. The third thing you can do here, and this one is a little bit different, but it has worked for a lot of metaphysical practitioners that have had supposed hauntings or paranormal disturbances in their home, or were maybe called to deal with this kind of thing for someone else. In metaphysics, generally it is believed that when a person dies, their consciousness goes on with God. It leaves this world. It doesn't hang around. It doesn't haunt. It continues its journey into eternity, infinity, with God. But metaphysicians believe that what we call ghosts are the thoughts of the person. So they're basically leaving behind a psychic imprint of their thoughts, particularly if they were a person who didn't want to die, had a great attachment to a particular place or a person or an object, and they kind of leave this world kicking and screaming. Not that they go to hell, of course they're nurtured, they learn, they're taken care of, they're educated, all that sort of thing. But they may leave a very strong, scared or angry imprint. But they are the person's thoughts who used to dwell here. It is not the person. And the same thing with what we would call demonic or dark entities, that these are essentially what they would call in the magic field thought forms. There may have been someone in the house years before you lived there who thought, oh my God, my house is haunted. Oh my God, I'm stalked by demons. Oh my God, there's a demon in the basement. And their thought, their belief will again leave that psychic imprint, that thought form. So in metaphysics, that's basically all you're dealing with is the thoughts, the thought form, or for our purposes here, psychic mental imprint and residue left behind by the person. Whether this ghost, as we would call it, be a person, something else, an animal, it's all just mental residue, the imprint. So basically what you would do then, treating it this way, would be give it a metaphysical treatment. Metaphysical treatments generally, when we say this, it is dispelling wrong thought with right thought. And how that is done is the person realizes there is no mind but God, there is no power but God. And we are all one with God. Our consciousness is essentially God's consciousness. We are reflections of God. We are not God, but we are reflections of, but nonetheless one with or at one with. So there is no power, there is no presence, there is no mind, there is no soul, there is no substance, but God. Now that doesn't mean I'm sure by saying that a lot of people get the impression, no soul. Does that mean we're absorbed by God when we die, like some people teach? We lose our individuality? No, you will always be an individual. You will always be that individual expression of God, but you'll go on to greater, higher, and better things, beyond this material world. But aside from that, basically giving a metaphysical treatment is just to stand and either think to yourself or say, all of this is just thought imprint. It's kind of like hypnosis or animal magnetism manifested. It has no real life. It has no real power. It has no real substance. It has no real presence. God is all in all. And just realize essentially what you're doing is realizing your oneness with God, and there's nothing else outside of that. God knows no evil. God doesn't know sickness. He doesn't know disease. He doesn't know calamity. He doesn't know anything that is hurtful, harmful, or dark. He doesn't know demons and ghosts and all this sort of thing. God only knows love, light, peace, goodness, truth, all things that are high and good. So essentially, again, you're saying, all this is just manifestations of thought, of mortal mind. It has no substance. It has no power. It has no presence. God is all in all. There is nothing but God. I am one with God. And you would raise your consciousness. And it takes a little doing and a little practice in metaphysics that you raise your consciousness. That when you feel that and you know that I am one with God. There is no other power or presence. And there's certainly not any other power or presence that could hurt me or harm me. And once you have a little bit of that realization or that little bit of, oh yeah, that is true. I do see that now. That in metaphysics is the moment that they say you demonstrate that your higher thoughts, your thoughts of God, correct or negate the negative thoughts, which essentially have no reality or substance to them anyway. They're just like shadows. And it's interesting to think that ghosts and spooks are like shadows. But a lot of people, metaphysicians have used this particular method for a number of years. I'm actually reading a book right now by a gentleman who gave a metaphysical talk in the the Christian Science Church in the 1930s. And he actually talked about a house that he was in that had some disturbances, and he used this technique. And, it just, he gave it a metaphysical treatment, and it was immediately over with. So it does work. And that's all any of these techniques really are, basically, is overcoming the error, the fear, the darkness, with love and light and faith and strength and confidence, using the authority given us by God. And it's always helpful to look at it in the metaphysical sense, no matter which one of these techniques you use. In metaphysics, they say, when you stand speaking, speak as divine mind, speak as God, because you are one with God. And as far as you are speaking truth, speaking in power, speaking love, light, truth, goodness, as far as you are doing that, you are speaking as God, because God is truth. If you're speaking truth, you're speaking God. You're speaking as God. Your thoughts are at one with God. So always remember that, no matter which of the techniques you use. So I hope this was an interesting podcast for all of you out there. Again, I appreciate you listening. I thought these were the three most interesting and kind of easy, quick techniques that I've used. The metaphysical one, that does take a little doing, but you could certainly try it. It doesn't hurt to affirm God being the only presence and power, and there's no reality to this shadow that's trying to haunt you. So if you're having paranormal disturbances in your home, try these out and let me know if they work. Give me a shout out below wherever. If you're listening on YouTube, you can comment. If you're listening on one of the podcast platforms, my email is always below, nocturnalmagic@gmail.com. And always again, below is my Patreon page, my Angel Thoughts Metaphysical Services page, where I offer different metaphysical services. Patreon is there if you would like to support the podcast and the work that I do. I'm trying to do this a little bit more full-time on my terms. I do it on my terms, but I also do it for some other companies, and sometimes I find their techniques a little spurious. So I'm trying to break away from that a little bit. But hey, if this podcast is interesting to you, if it's a blessing to you, and you feel, hey, sure, I'll give $1 a month. I think the most I have 3 tiers. It's $1, $5, and $10. I'm not looking to try to gouge big money out of anybody, because that's certainly not me. And there are benefits to that you will read on the Patreon page that I offer those who might be gracious enough to support the cause. But again, that's only if you really want to and you feel led to. That's great. I'm not here to pressure anybody at all. That's certainly not my thing. But I hope you enjoyed the podcast. I hope it was helpful. And I'll see you all next time here on the Spirit Side. Until then, be safe out there, everybody, and stay in the light.